name is Sam Gold. I am an artist living in South Australia. My areas of interest are dealing with the body and art as a process, so using art making as a therapeutic model for healing, catharsis, and unraveling our experiences that we have in the world. So the process for Primavera started when I got to pitch an idea to Hannah, and I really had such ambition to use and utilise the equipment that I had at my fingertips here at the Jam Factory. There was this beautiful kiln. It's a gas kiln, and it's quite sustainable when it comes to firing this kiln because you have to pack it very tightly. It's a trolley kiln, so it opens up at the front and this massive trolley comes out, and you've got to get people on both sides to load massive shelves. So my shelves are about 6'10" by 6'10" millimeters in size. So I made my works fit to those dimensions. So when I started drafting out ideas, the height that I could work with was 1.3 meters in height and about 6'10" by 6'10" for each shelf. So I knew that that was my parameter. When I first started making works, I started with more of that traditional coral form that I'm known for. But for this work, I wanted to speak to endurance. So this work has a few kiln-formed cracks that came out, but I find them so delicious because they really speak to the fragility of the material and earth, and it's like location in space. So I liked that those kind of essences came through. To understand a clay body, I feel like you need to spend 6 to 8 months with it, seeing how it fires. So getting shrink rates, testing it. I would start out with small tests and then work to sizes that are about this big. And so by the time I got to 80 centimeters, which would be about here, I learned that the initial 14 to 15% shrink rate that would happen actually ended up being more like 30%. And that was kind of halfway through my making process where I learnt those things. There's one work in the show that's particularly quite tall and does look like a termite mound. And that one shrunk a whole 30 centimeters. You can't rely on absolutely everything coming out, no matter how thorough and rigorous you are with testing. All types of sizes and clay bodies, there will always be a little surprise. I've learned to embrace that because using fire as an alchemical process and becoming a little bit more familiar with the manual handling of a gas kiln made me appreciate that impact and those types of small little kiln-formed cracks that might happen in the work. And again, to go back to the fragility of the material, it ended up being something that I really cherished in the work. So I would make works in batches of 4, hoping that at least one came out. So there's also another law in ceramic law. It's that for every one piece that you need to make 3 more. If you would fire 3 and they all came out or 4, they all came out successful, then you would be able to work with those and have a bit of a selection from that. So I like to work in that grouping of things. So with lockdown, having time where I couldn't have access to my studio meant that I couldn't control drying, particularly when it did come to a stage where I had finished the majority of the work. So I had made a table of 6 works and they were all drying. And because I couldn't rotate that drying, take off the plastic, expose it for an hour, put it back on, have the windows open and control that, there were these really defined cracks. I start with a profile form and then I pinch out from that form this beginning flare. So that additional flare was quite thin, and it ended up being because of the lockdown, not being able to control it, the thin layers would crack off. So over maybe like a 2-month period after that, I was able to really slowly control all these terracotta works. And in, I think it was like 6 weeks, it took 6 weeks for them to dry evenly with that exposed, 1 hour lots of exposed to the elements. What I'm able to do with those works that weren't successful is actually reclaim the material, kind of ground that down, and then I'm going to add that to a porcelain body and refire that, so none of it goes to waste. So they're little areas that I can be sustainable in. So I first started thinking about these concepts in my training as an art therapist, and looking firsthand at a wide range of clients and students that I would support, and how their body would hold a velocity or a gentleness, and using clay because it's quite malleable. Your body is quite the profile. So when you're wheel throwing and centering, however you're gesturing with your body, like if you've got like a slight scoliosis, or you're really leaning towards like the right, or your wrist is really bent out, the clay conforms to that and becomes a mirror to ourselves. So I feel all of that started this kind of thinking for me, and became kind of like this crux, like the core of what I'm researching and want to share with the world. I hope that people can walk away thinking about process and just our emotional processes, our experiences in the world, and using a material as a conversation to help reflect upon and build upon our own experiences.